Hey everyone, it's Kate from Corporate Women Unleashed. I am so excited. We have an amazing client who is here so graciously to share her story. Jen, welcome. Jen has a high pressure role in tech. So all of you guys in tech, I'm sure can relate. And she's here to share kind of where she was at prior to CWU, where she's at now, and what life is like. So Jen, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it's going to be really meaningful to a lot of women out there. Appreciate you doing this.
Oh, no problem, Kate. I'm happy to share.
Awesome. I love it. All right. Well, let's just talk. So I am curious, and I never know what everyone's going to say. So it'll just be fun for me to hear, but what's really the result? What did you come here looking for to Corporate One Unleashed, and where are you at today? So what's the result that you would say, or the outcome you've gotten?
Um, I'm I'm just living in a very different way than I was when I started the program, and it's remarkable to me, like the tools that I picked up from the variety of trainings that you offered, and then just applying them to my life consistently and really getting to understand what my trigger points were for stress
Yeah.
and how to rewire my reactions and building time in for me so that I had more time to process and why that mattered in the big picture. I'm just in a very, very different place than I was when I started the program. So in a
Ooh.
much, much better place. So
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. Like, what was the problem that got you here? Because is it a better, and maybe expound on that. Is it a better place emotionally? Is it better mentally? Or is there some actual specific change that you've put into place? So maybe what was the problem before?
I think it was a compounding effect. There were stresses happening on the home front
Hmm.
that had just sort of like a snowball going down the
Yeah.
hill, just sort of like gathering up. And then on the work front, I thought we were heading in one direction and we ended up changing course, which had a really big effect on what I and my team were doing. And so it just ended up really shifting like where I was as a person and what I thought my goals were both personally and professionally. And so, in a lot of ways, I was just at that point of being overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
when I'm overwhelmed, that's just not a good feeling, and I don't want to be there on a regular basis. And I needed like some sort of training, some sort of something to help me figure out how to cope. And it's looking back on it, like I recognize now what led to that feeling.
Yeah.
And sometimes life just throws several curveballs at you at once. I think that was a little bit my case.
Yep.
And so it was good to be able to take that step back and find a training program that talked about like a lot of the pressures women face, especially around midlife, where you have like multiple things you're responsible for. And, sometimes juggling all of those balls is just a bit much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So glad you brought that out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's true because, and then of course, being achieving women, women that are driven, we're always trying to get things in its little orderly place, or as soon as things calm down. And then when life starts throwing different, chaotic things at you, which at this level that you're at, that's going to happen, right?
Hmm.
Like companies are going to change, management's going to change, projects are going to change. And then you've got changes going on like we do as women with our families and our kids and all those things. It's like, wow. And if we don't learn how to navigate through that, we're barely keeping our heads above water, and eventually you just burn out. You hit a wall and something's got to give, right?
Well, and I realized like my coping techniques, the things that I'd learned that got me through college, where you just worked harder, you just cut back on your sleep. I couldn't keep cutting back on my sleep. There was, yeah, I mean, and so it was just like, you have to learn new ways of working and of living and of delegating. And yeah, so.
Yeah, and just managing yourself. Yeah, because I think
Mhm.
everybody thinks that, the pressures we had in college are different than the pressures you have today. So you're
Oh
playing
yeah.
like playing in the pro leagues. You need pro league techniques, not the college techniques. So why was it important for you to fix these things though? Like what was it maybe that you were afraid of, or what was it that you really wanted?
I wanted a very different quality of life. I just wanted to, some my kids coming in. Thanks, Kate. I appreciate it.
That was awesome. Women all over America are like, yep, that's what we're all dealing with right now.
Yeah, I know. I know. Well, and like since March, like being home, like,
Yeah.
it's interesting, just like the techniques and just like taking that step and just recentering yourself, it really helps.
It
So
does. It
yeah.
does. Cool. Okay. So what we were talking about, just to recenter us with this, is like what was the like the motivator? Like what were you, I don't know, why was it important for you to fix this, or what were you worried about? Were you worried about like just I'm going to tear my hair out and run away from my job, or were you just like, because you were talking about the quality of your life, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was afraid that I couldn't keep going at the pace. I knew I couldn't keep going at the pace I was at. Like there was
Yeah.
just, there was no way for me to put in more hours. There were no more additional hours to put in. I was already
Yeah.
pulling 60-hour weeks, and then, that 60-hour week came at the expense of my family. So it was like I couldn't make the impact there that I wanted to make because so much time was sunk in on the work front. And I didn't want to have a nervous breakdown, and I didn't want to, upend my home life. And it was just one of those crossing points where
Yeah.
whatever the
Crossroad,
right
or yeah. Yeah.
crossroad.
Yeah.
It was a crossroad where I was just like, I have to make some serious changes.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to live like this. Like this is not a good way to live.
I love
So,
it. I love
yeah.
it. Good for you. Good for you for putting your stake in the sand. I love that, because that's kind of what it came down to me too. It was like, okay, how much longer can I live this way? This is not what I
Yeah.
want in my life. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
what else did you try before you found us? Can I ask? Was there other things, time blocking and calendar management or any of those things, or
Oh, I mean, I had I blocked out 5 hours a week
yeah.
for lunch. And then I added another 5 hours for like coordination, and they were consistently scheduled over. And
Right.
I have this like, childhood, like trying to please people's script. And so
Yeah.
I was just like, well, so-and-so no, so-and-so doesn't really need you. You need lunch, right?
Yes.
But the old me would have been like, oh, but, and no, 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 no,
Yep.
no. And so it's just like little stuff like that, and
Yeah.
so I had tried things like that. I had looked at other training programs. Nothing really addressed like just the squeeze that I think a lot of women find themselves in. And I liked that about this program. And I think I talked to you a couple months before I joined. I remember that. And I
Yeah.
wasn't quite at my breaking point. And then when the breaking point came, I was like, I think I need to talk to that Kate woman again.
I'm calling back.
I
Yes.
know, I
Yeah.
know. So it was like kismet or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, the squeeze, that's a great word for it, because that's what it feels like. You just feel like you're getting
Yeah.
squeezed on every side, and it's like this something's, yeah, like again,
Something has to
something's,
give. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
how'd you find us? I'm sure, was it like an ad or something? You found us through Facebook or
Yeah.
a friend, or
I think it was either LinkedIn or Facebook,
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah. So one of the two. And then like I said, I think I talked to you, and then I ended up talking to someone else in the company.
yeah,
But yeah, it was Jamie, and it
yeah,
was great. It was great.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it was interesting too, because no matter what field of business you're in, a lot of women in particular find themselves in this situation. And that was so cool about the program, meeting all these other women who, we're all in different walks of life, and are, if we have kids, or we may be in different stages. But there's just this commonality. It's interesting.
driven women are driven women, and we don't take lunch, and we need to.
Yeah,
Among other
exactly.
multitudes of things. I love that. So
Yeah.
do you remember anything crazy that we told you to do, that, or like something in the initial weeks of the training where you were like, what? Or, and then, yeah, did you think it was going to work, or were you kind of like, I don't know about this?
So I mean, I can answer that a couple of different ways. I think, yes, early on, I was like, oh my God, I don't know about this. But I was like, I'm spending money for this, and I want to get the most out of it that I
Yeah.
possibly can. So I was, absolutely willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
And I remember like trying to figure out how to like download stuff to take it with me on my commute. And, I would listen to some of the segments more than once just to try to make sure I really understood and was able
Yeah.
to relate the lesson, which was helpful. Early on, I remember being asked to draw like a picture, and it went with the words that I chose for
Yes.
how I wanted to live my life. And so for me, my words were freedom and fun, that I
Mm-hmm.
wanted more freedom in my life and I wanted more fun. And so I had like drawn these vignettes of like things that I wanted. And, looking back on it, when I found it about a year later, like it all came true, which is kind of wild.
Isn't
which is
that
so
crazy?
cool. It is. So like I was joking a little bit the other day, but I think I'm going to draw like myself in a really nice car so that that's
Yeah.
like
Oh, that's right. The other day.
next year.
Yeah, right. Draw a castle and then draw a private jet and,
Yes. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
bury it in your backyard and then we'll unearth it in a year, Jen. That'll be awesome.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, honestly, it was cool because like that drawing and those words were a good way to sort of cement
Yeah.
that inner thinking about how do you want to manage your life in these
Yeah.
different areas, and what are the things, what are your needs? And so really understanding my needs was something I hadn't really given a lot of thought to
Right.
prior to this program at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're all working our butts off to get to this quiet space. That's all of a sudden it's all going to drop into place. And then the quiet space never happens, and then
Yes.
all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I got to start making that. So freedom and fun. So is that the result? I mean, do you feel like you have that now, Jen?
I do, because I've just restructured how I live.
Mhm.
But it took a while, like,
Yeah.
but that's okay. I mean, it takes as long as it takes, and that's
Yeah.
the beauty of the program is you can go back and revisit the materials and,
Yeah.
think about things. And, I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to be back in there checking stuff out from time to time, which is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's designed that way, right? Like this is a
Mm-hmm.
framework for life, not a framework for, today's business problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, Jen, like you were very committed because you came into the program, like you said, you were definitely going to get your money's worth, so to speak, in the sense that you really kept applying it and asking questions and trying it. And you and I both had that aha where, a year ago we had you do an exercise where you looked across your life and your needs, and then you did it again a year later, and you're like, oh my God, like this is
Yes.
night and day. Like even the things I want in my life now are at a different caliber. So
Yes.
that's pretty exceptional, right?
Yeah, it really is. But I think that's because I was so much in that squeeze before,
Yeah.
that like the only thing I could imagine was like a little bit less pushing. And
Yes.
now I'm like there's no walls like coming in on me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which, by the way, for everyone listening, she hasn't changed her job, or you've changed jobs within the same company, but it's not because of a job change. Like, and
No.
I think that's really the message, Jen. Like, what did you change?
Well, I mean, I changed the way I approach work, and
Yeah.
I changed the way I approach my life, and
Yeah.
like all of the things that as a working mom I have to do.
Yeah.
I changed the way I communicate with my family and with my husband, and
Yeah.
that's helped a lot, a lot,
Yeah.
a lot.
So
So
cool. So you
yeah,
changed you. Like
yes, I did.
message to the universe, to everyone watching. Yeah, like that's the magic. And what I love about that, once I figured that out, was like, oh, I can control this. I may not be able to control whatever the company's doing or the boss is doing or the employee, but that's something I can control. I can influence those other things if I, learn to change me. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Any ancillary results or anything else, because again, it was sort of that equilibrium or that balancing of that career piece that drives a lot of people here to work with us. But was there any ancillary? You kind of mentioned your family and your husband and things, but health or anything else where you saw a result?
I'm definitely paying more attention to my health these days, and I don't put it on the back burner, which
Mm,
is really,
cool.
really important for me. Because in the past, I would always like talk myself out of, oh, it's just a little thing. I'll
Yeah.
be fine. I don't need to go to the doctor.
Ugh,
I'll get that checkup next month. And you can't keep putting that stuff off.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No,
it doesn't help you.
no.
Yeah.
Not if you want to be around for your family long term or,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And sometimes it gives you that brain break that you need. And then you come back refreshed when you come back to the workplace, which I hadn't been taking nearly enough of in the past. So,
Yeah. Just taking breaks during the day, catching your breath, taking a little walk or whatever you need.
absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, it's like the best. Yeah, it
It
actually
is.
juices you for the day. It makes you more productive instead of taking away. Um, cool. Any big takeaways you'd want anyone, who's listening to sort of think about, or, ahas? Like if you were, Jen a year ago listening to this, like what would you have wanted to hear from someone, I guess?
Um, I mean, a lot of things in life, you get what you put into it. And so like I did, Kate, I put a lot of time and
Yeah.
energy into just
Yeah.
trying to understand the tenets of the program and apply them.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's important, but I think, you know, not everyone needs to approach it things the way I did, to have a good result. I think there's just a lot of really good learning that comes from this type of material.
Mm,
And, you know, I would also say that self-improvement is sort of like a lifelong quest. Like
Yeah.
I just, you're never really done with it.
Yeah.
So what I like about this program is the tools that you get, you can build on them. And, you know, I've seen like, I've read some books and then I'm like halfway through this book and I'll realize like, oh my God, this is what Kate is talking about. Or someone was
Yeah.
joking about like the Paris Hilton
Yes.
movie, and that, you know, oh my gosh, Paris Hilton is having similar problems to me, even though it's not like I don't live a Paris Hilton life, but,
Yeah.
you know, just like that being caught in the middle of all the stress situation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fascinating and just seeing those parallels. And so I think, you know, for me, it was really such a really good investment of my time and energy, and really has paid off
Ah.
in a lot of ways. So thank you.
Oh, John, I love that. Yes, thank you. Well,
Yeah.
happy wife, happy life, happy
Yeah.
family. It really does have such a butterfly effect. And I think we forget that. I think a lot of times as women, we don't want to invest in ourselves because we're like, oh, if our kids need something, it's like bam. But not recognizing that, your team, the way you operate at work, like so many people benefit from this beyond you. But the butterfly effect is pretty rich. But, ultimately, little girls grow up to be grown women who deserve fine lives, and that's good too.
Yeah, totally,
Right?
totally. And you know, it's worth it to be able to walk into a fraught situation and just be like the calm one in the room. Like
Yeah.
I love that. And so it's like I just want to hold on to that. So now that I know these techniques,
Yeah.
I can, you know, take that with me, which is just incredible. It's an incredible thing to be able to just, you know, in that moment, like find your inner peace.
Yes.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. So
That's the big piece of the freedom, right? It's that
yeah.
emotional freedom. It's not just the freedom of your time, which that's obviously golden, but it's
Mhm.
the freedom emotionally to not be festering about whatever or worried about it.
Yeah.
So good.
And it carries over into like your home life, or like if your parents are arguing or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Be like,
like
yeah,
you know,
okay, mom and dad's arguing. I'm going to go over here and like make a pizza. See ya. Or,
exactly.
it's not a big, drama. The drama's gone.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
you don't get dragged into it, which is like amazing. That peace of
Yeah.
mind's amazing.
Oh,
So
I love
yeah.
that. I'm so happy for you, John. You're just the
Thanks.
coolest. You've been great to have. We
Yeah.
love getting ready to, work with all these, like, you're just cool women like you know what I'm saying? Who really bring that thought and that care and that deeper desire to live, not just a good life, but like a really good life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? A
Yeah.
really good life. And that's what you're so devoted to. So it's been really amazing. You've done incredible amount of work and commitment, and you've gotten the result, which shows. So I'm so happy for you. Thank you
Well,
for doing
thank
this.
you. Thanks,
You're
Kate.
welcome.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.